Hello, everyone. This is Waylon Lewis, and I work with Elephant Journal, and I live in Boulder, Colorado. And as many of you know, um, we had a mass shooting a couple days ago. It's hard to even think in terms of time right now. On the one hand, I have to say it's not shocking. There was a shooting in Atlanta last week. We have, by the definition of mass shootings, we have 311 mass shootings in the last year, I believe. That said, obviously, when it comes home to your hometown, to people you know or people who friends of yours know, to a grocery store that you know well, it obviously is violating in a very direct way. And what we're seeing right now is, just to cut to the chase, is incredibly predictable. We are seeing liberals and reasonable gun owners rise up and call for change, including myself. We are seeing conservatives and gun nuts buy more guns and argue on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and including in my DMs right now. So, what we've seen happen time and again when that happens is nothing changes. So I can tell you that, with the exception of having a president who advocates for reasonable gun reform, nothing is different. And nothing will change. Nothing will get better. People say, oh my God, you must be in shock or surprised or whatever. And I say, if you're paying attention, none of this is shocking. It is shocking, but it's not surprising. It was incredibly obvious that Boulder was going to be a target at some point for a deranged, violent person with access to a gun that he shouldn't have had, an AR-15, yet again. And so yet again, we go through these sort of, it's almost like a ritual at this point in America. And it's a ritual that has been, when I left Boulder, I remember Columbine had happened, and it'll just keep happening for the rest of our lives. So basically, I think my request of all of you who are watching, most of whom will probably generally agree with me, but I'm hoping I'll reach a few who are willing to open up your heart and just care about these people, care about Eric Talley, the police officer. My girlfriend just called me up. My fiance just called me up crying. She was driving to go get her vaccine, and people were lined up all on the highways and every bridge, and there was a police parade through downtown and then out, and the Boulder police thanked him for his service. And this was a good man with seven children, and who was actually trying to get out of active duty because he felt like it was too dangerous and he wanted his family to have a father. And, let alone the 9 other victims. And anyway, we know all of this, I hope, if we're paying attention, but this is just to say nothing will change unless we make a change. Nothing will change unless we make a change. I can list some common sense reforms that have been suggested. I'll do that now. This is from a pro-Second Amendmenter who owns a decent number of guns. This is posted on my blog on elephantjournal.com. He says, that said, despite being pro-Second Amendment, having a decent number of guns, I'm not against reasonable gun control measures or gun reform measures, gun safety. I'd like to see universal background checks and properly documented and accessible mental health records. Comprehensive background checks. While implementation is not always brought up, it is generally held that it might be a good idea to at least fully fund the federal background check system and place an obligation on states to report accurately their protective orders to the background check system. Mental health checks, number 2. This one is actually a little more tricky than either side makes it out to be, but the general consensus is that people who are a danger to themselves and others should not be permitted to own a firearm. That said, only 14% of mass shootings in America are carried out by someone with mental health issues. And if anyone says, well, this is a mental health issue, then say, well, you better support universal health care then, or you should shut the F up. Number 3, bans on people under 21 from purchasing guns. Some requests include 1, reinstating the assault weapons ban. The assault weapons ban essentially outlawed the sale of AR-15 and all knockoffs, but it was so vaguely written that a lot of gun stores didn't know what pieces of their inventory they were permitted to keep. A friend just told me that one of my favorite hardware stores has an entire gun room, which I know about. It's called Jack's. They fill up the gun room with guns and it's gone. All pandemic. Filled up, gone. Filled up, gone. Because people are so convinced that, they've watched Walking Dead for too many years and they're so convinced that, there's going to be an end run on toilet paper in their local grocery store, that they have to have their own assault weapons. Number 2, comprehensive licensing laws. Basically, you have to demonstrate basic competence to get a license that would let you buy guns and ammo. Just like, I have to get a license to drive a car. I have to register it. The line generally boils down to it shouldn't be easier to buy a gun than buy a car. In practice, this isn't that different from how gun laws in Canada are structured, and while gun owners in the States may think Canada is one giant gun-free zone, you can own AR-15s, SKSs, and even newer semi-autos like the Chris if you get a license. And if you're not an irresponsible jackass, have a history of violence or mental instability, you can get one without much trouble. Frog and Bullfish, perhaps a more advanced version of the concealed carry class requirement, should allow the purchase of semi-automatics. They seem to be a general target of this. Also banning gun ownership under 21 while promoting it for the armed forces starting at 17 is morally suspect. Those are my notes in my blog. And on some level, I'm just bringing those up, not because there's clear right answers particularly, but there are common sense gun reforms that the vast majority of Americans support. And at some point, like FDR said, just try something, because the status quo is innocent dead people and innocent families torn apart, and all of us being afraid of public spaces. And, mask COVID denier, mask refusers like to say, oh, you're living in fear. Well, all of us on some level are living with fear. That's the reason I knew and suspected that violence would come to Boulder at some point. So yesterday I did another video, perhaps a little bit more vulnerable, but today I wanted to go through some real solutions, practical solutions. And I hope whether you agree with them 100% or not, you agree that a change needs to be made. Here's a short list. If you think America is so great, or we have it right and nothing needs to change, compare the US to every other country in the world. We have more guns here than people. America has 6 times as many firearm homicides as Canada, nearly 16 times as many as Germany. Obviously, there's different populations. There's a mass shooting every day on average. Gun culture is responsible. States with more guns have more gun deaths. So just talking about the US, not comparing populations, there's a mass shooting every day on average. Gun culture is responsible. States with more guns have more gun deaths. Other countries with more guns have more shootings too. We're the outlier. We have more shootings. Even within the US, states with tighter gun control laws have fewer gun-related deaths. Many have reported that the NRA and friends succeeded in overturning Boulder's assault weapons ban only 10 days ago. And the gun was bought within that week. Probably not in Boulder, but it's still all of a piece. It's related. More guns, more suicides. The state with the most guns report the most suicides. Policies that limit access to guns have decreased suicides. This is all on my blog. If you're arguing online against common sense gun reform that 90% of Americans support, that's the title of it. Support for reasonable reform is widely popular, and I name my sources. So, I'm not trying to bum everyone out, but I think the notion of being able to live without fear of mass shootings, providing mental health care, not stigmatizing all those with mental health issues who aren't violent, and too often mental health care is sort of a straw man that Republicans and friends like to bring up instead of actually addressing common sense gun reform. I think that's about it. I think that's about all I got. I hope that is helpful. Without, kind of common sense solutions going forward, all of this is just talking. It's all just talk. And we need to make change, not just talk. I don't honestly feel super comfortable reading all the comments. I'm pretty overwhelmed, honestly, the last couple days. My job is to cover stuff and try to be helpful and try to offer solutions and try to be genuine and vulnerable and helpful, and dealing with so many comments. It's just so many of the comments, if you boil down what they're saying, they're basically saying, don't change. Everything's fine. F you. And my basic approach to those kind of comments is breathe deep. Offer them some facts. Be willing to change if the facts are not what I understand them to be. But if they are, and the person is unwilling to change their mind, then they're not arguing in earnest. They're arguing, trying to win that argument, and it's not a genuine conversation. And I always respond with 3 words at that point. If they're not willing to change their mind about their own set of facts when presented with facts that I have double-checked and verified, and if my position is correct, and I can always learn more, I say 3 words on you, and that's it. It's over. One of the most evil, and I don't really believe in evil particularly, but one of the most evil Americans ever to exist was Joseph McCarthy. And his career, it's more complicated, but boiled down, it was ended by one powerful sentence, which was something like, Senator McCarthy, have you no shame? So on some level, if you don't care, if you're not letting your heart be touched by this, shame on you. If you do care, please share this. Please consider subscribing to Elephant. I have to say that. I believe in independent media. I believe in truth and empathy and caring. And those will keep our podcasts and our videos going. I live here in Boulder, and we have a vigil tonight. We have another vigil tomorrow. We had a city council kind of vigil today. And this will just continue. And it is not prejudiced in the sense that it will come everywhere unless we make a change. So let's make a change.